the Treaty Principles Bill first came out 20 years ago. Take a look at this. December 2005, the ACT Party's Rodney Hyde brings forward the Treaty of Waitangi Principles Bill. And you take a look at the bill, and it's almost an exact replica of the ACT Party's Treaty Principles Bill today. It does the same thing. It tries to rewrite the 3 articles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi in an attempt to nullify it in colonial law. It's just a reincarnation of this 20-year-old bill that I'm going to call Rodney Hyde's bill from now on. That's what the Treaty Principles Bill. It's not David Seymour's. He's not some slick political actor who's just dreamt up this sneaky Treaty Principles Bill. He's just the latest puppet of the ACT Party to bring forward this old anti-Tiriti policy. Same thing with New Zealand's First. They haven't just turned anti-Māori all of a sudden. That same year, 2005, 20 years ago, Winston Peters brings forth the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi Deletion Bill. Very straight to the point. And the bill wanted to do exactly as its name suggests. They wanted to delete all references to the Treaty of Waitangi principles from law. The bill didn't pass. But the interesting thing is a few months later, New Zealand First enters into a coalition agreement with Labour, a confidence and supply agreement, sorry. And in this agreement, Labour agrees to this principles deletion bill to go forward to select committee and select committee only. So that's the exact strategy that the ACT Party is doing with the Treaty Principles Bill today, right? It goes to select committee. It doesn't go further, but it does pave the way for New Zealand First to bring it back again. And 18 years later, after a lot of anti-Māori racism has been drummed up by the likes of Hobson's Pledge and Taxpayers Union, New Zealand Centre for Political Research, and so on, New Zealand First figures it's time to bring this principles deletion bill back. But instead of just saying we're bringing this policy back, I guess they were trying to hide its history. They pinned it on the most racist person in the country. Look at this very familiar face, supposedly bringing this bill back up from the dead.
Bay of Islands lodge owner Julian Batchelor had some of his land reclassified as Māori land and says Pākehā are being oppressed.
I have personally had some. I've been on the other end of apartheid.
Do you agree?
Well, of course I do. My whole speech was about that. Which part did you miss?
Batchelor also put up policies on removing almost all references to the Treaty of Waitangi from legislation. Shane Jones in favour of the idea.
With the exception.
So they bring this policy back up, and National in their coalition agreement actually agrees to go forward with this policy. They've agreed, and they've now called it like the Treaty Clause Review, but we all know it's the same thing. We know by looking at its whakapapa, it used to be called the Principles Deletion Bill, and the Waitangi Tribunal said the same thing, that it's clear that this is just an attempt to remove or narrow these clauses. So Labour actually paved the way for this bill to now be going forward with National. And so as Labour attacks National and says, how dare they allow the Treaty Principles Bill to go through to Selects Committee, they should be apologising for allowing the Treaty Principles Deletion Bill to go through to Selects Committee. That is the exact same thing. And now it looks like it's going to go into law. This is an extremely dangerous law. It wants to remove the references to Tiriti from 28 laws. It will have a very similar impact to the Treaty Principles Bill. You know, and for example, we all very rightly came out against the removal of Section 7AA from Oranga Tamariki Act because it will have dire consequences. But this Treaty Principles Deletion Bill 2.0 wants to remove that from the Act anyway. So it would have had the same impact as Act's policy. So these two parties, they're both in lockstep. They have been for a long time. And even beyond that, Labour and National have both enabled these anti-Tiriti moves. And our media, on the other hand, they don't provide us with all this context. They act like these attacks on Tiriti, that the Treaty Principles Bill is this new, unprecedented, scary thing. And I think what that does is it actually overwhelms us as the public when we think there's all these new attacks with seemingly no history. But when you do find out about their whakapapa, when you do learn about their history, it helps you understand where all of this is coming from, and it helps you respond accordingly.